So let's move on and talk about the light that we're going to be looking at today, which is going to be the Nanlite PavoSlim 120C. Okay. So this is the fella here, right? So it's an LED panel that we're going to be looking at. I got one here. So this smaller square is the 60, and the one they sent me was the 120. Okay. And looking at these panel here, like LED panel, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this. So what's the big deal with this? Why would we need a panel, or what is a panel offering? Kind of those sorts of things, right? So we're going to have a look at that now, and I'm going to dig it out here and set it up. Yeah. So let's have a look. So it comes in this big box, as you may well imagine. In fact, it's got the box down here. The reason I'm spending time talking about this is, where is the box? Yes, this is the case it comes in, right? So it's a very deep case, and the reason it's deep is because of this power unit here, on like control box here even, right? So it has to be this thick, but the rest of it fits in a tiny slot. So there's tons of free space in this bag. I'm only saying this is because it has to be this thick because of this, but if you wanted to carry this in a different bag, this whole unit would just go in the back of a rucksack, you know, because these clamps and that sort of stuff don't take up much room. The panel is dead flat, as you can see. So if you were to kind of separate it out, it would take up hardly any room at all. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that just because the box is big, but it's got a lot of empty space in it. Oh. Let's kind of flip to a full screen here. I'm just going to cover a couple of these questions before we move on. The reason 70 CRI, I'm saying that smoke injures a vape. Oh, yeah, because I mean the size of it certainly is. Yeah, it's a lot more expensive. Yeah. Jimmy says used a vape now and again, no nicotine, not poser, just needed a small smoke machine. Lot. That's. I mean, you're right, Jimmy. Yeah. I mean, there is tons of flavored vapes that you can get, and there's no nicotine in it. So yeah, you could definitely just use. I don't know what you use. You use cherries and cream or something like that. Look, I'm not judging. You do you. But yeah, you don't need any nicotine. Okay, let's switch to full screen here a second. And definitely try not to forget about it again. Okay. So, right. This is it here. So, you know, you got an idea of the size of it. You know, very, very lightweight, and it comes out the box without this diffusion cover on it, right? So, I mean, there's no reason why you wouldn't have this on personally, but you can take it off very easily. It's just all velcroed on. Yeah. Okay. There's a couple of ways you can attach it. It has just a regular spigot that you can put on there, or it has this clamp here that goes in there, and it's got tons of ball joints on the end there, so pretty easy. So that just slots in there, and that slots in there, and that's locked in now, right? And then, you know, like I said, you have all these kind of ball joints on the back there. You can adjust it as you see fit. Okay. One thing that I thought was pretty impressive about these ball joints on there is because there's two on there. So there's a ball joint close to where the light is, and there's another ball joint close to where the actual light stand would be, right? So there's a ball joint there, and there's a ball joint here. So you've got two. I thought it was just going to be a mess when it's on the light, on the stand. You put it up there, and it's actually very easy to kind of grip and hold with those ball joints. Which is obviously good. So, pretty standard, right? Next we've got the control unit, or the control box thing here, which is It's big, it's not heavy, but this is what we need to plug everything into. This can sit, in a minute I'll just clamp it to the stand, and we can also use batteries on here as well. So if you had the V-Lock mount batteries, you can use this. You don't need to plug it into the wall. You can just use this to power the light as well. So that's what that is, right? And a nice handle just to hang it on the stand if you need to, but the clamp that it comes with is very, very sturdy for sure. Which is this thing here, right? So regular super clamp here, yeah, so the Manfrotto super clamp thing, and then this attachment here that they've made goes on for the V-mount, right? And all these super clamps have the screw holes in there, so you could kind of put whatever you wanted on there, but they've made this for the V-Lock, which is a great idea. So that goes on there pretty damn snug, and then we can just clamp this on or click this on. There's a little button at the back that you use to pull up as well. Okay. So next up we've got the two cables. So we're going to need one to actually plug into the wall, right? This one, and then this one is actually going to plug into the box and then the light, right? Now, all of these come with this standard Velcro, which is nice. Everything kind of goes away real clean, which is good. And all of the cables with this light have this attachment where you kind of just like push it in and then it kind of slots closed, so you're not faffing around too long or anything like that. It just everything kind of snugs in, and then this little sheath here kind of closes behind it, and then to unplug it you just got to twist this sheath and then pull off. So everything's pretty user friendly in terms of click and go. So make sure you get the the right ends. And then we need to do the same with the power, right? I will say, I know it's a small thing, but all the Nanlite stuff I have all comes with these Velcro things. I know you can pick them up for like pennies, but again, it's just another attention to detail that Nanlite kind of has with all of their kit that I find very noticeable. Just because my other lights is just cables everywhere. Right, I gotta plug that in, hang on. Okay. So that's at 1% now. All right. So let's have a look. So that only goes at full percent. Now I'm going to open up the app in a second. I wonder if you can turn that down in like 0.1%. But anyway, do it in a second. So as we can see here, we can see the makeup. You might not be able to see it here. We can see the makeup of the LEDs on there, and then we have this kind of pop out softbox here. Yeah, so it's just Velcroed on there, and you see that softbox pops out. So there's kind of compression in there, like metal strips in there that kind of keep it popped out. And we do the same on the other side. You can see it pop out there. Yeah. So now we have this kind of mini softbox sat on the front, which is nice. And it also comes with a grid, which is very easy to put on, because I thought it was going to be that awful Velcro stuff that you kind of put on, but it has these kind of flaps here in each of the corners. It should be relatively easy to put on. Famous last words. So yeah, it's snug, but it's not impossible, right? It's pretty easy to put on. Okay, and then, you know, what's immediately obvious to me when this comes out is how lightweight that is. It's very, very lightweight. So like I said, that whole case as well. If you didn't have the control box here, you wanted to carry that separately. Like this thing here is very, very light. So decent size as well. So this is the 120C. So this means that it's full color. Right. So we can adjust the. We got the CCT mode here. We got the HSI, the RGB. So hue, saturation, intensity. Let's have a look. Yeah. So standard stuff, right? I'm just kind of curious actually with the app. I just want to see what we can do with it. Let's have a look. I suppose we could try and load it up on the screen here, because that always goes well. Okay, let's see if we can run this via the phone on the app here. Let's see. Okay, so let me pop to the so we got new scene. Yeah. Test. Let's see if it finds the light, and if not, might have to reset the Bluetooth. But yeah, get ready for starting. You fuckers, man. So that is. Let's see. Can we get a new fixture via Bluetooth? Oh shit, it saw it straight away. I actually was fully expecting to have to reset that. Let's see if it actually works. Let's see. That was instant, right? Okay. Enter value between. Okay. There's another fixture in the list using the address. So we were so close for it working. Between what? Let's just go 99. Interesting. Okay. So that's definitely connected to it. Whether we can manage it or not, I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so there it is there. Nice. Is it slow because it's going through there or not? Okay, so at 50%, let's take it down. Okay. Okay, so it is only in 1%. Okay. Okay. But the rest of it, pretty straightforward, right? So we've got HSI in here. Nice. Okay. Yeah, cool. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, so pretty easy to use app as well, right? Pretty responsive. Even running it through the Mac here, pretty responsive. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's have a look. So check out the questions here. Currently editing 3 images to make the feedback at the end. Oh, nice one, Jamie. Yeah. Yeah. Surely a smoke ninja shouldn't be seen. It's not. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not seen. It's just that they wanted to see that it was obvious that you're using smoke. Yeah. I'd have a collapsible softbox up by now, Jake. So those I got a shoot tomorrow, and I was just I need a softbox for a background, believe it or not. And I found one that Essential Photo sent me, and it is like the speed ring pop-up one. I was like, Jesus, man, this is so much easier. Yeah, you just literally just pull a handle and it just pops up. It's wild. Yeah. Okay. Let's turn this off then. Let's turn this because we know that it works. Let's not. Let's not create any more problems, right? But I mean, pretty straightforward. For some reason, I had to give it a specific number that wasn't being used or something like that. I hadn't really come across that before. Normally, it's automatic. But the point was, even on the Godox one that I was using, I had to reset the Bluetooth on it. But this one was just straight in, which was good. Hey, no worries, Janos. Yeah, take it easy, man. So, what is the point in this LED panel? Why? They said, do you want to have a look at this? And look, I've been shooting a long time and got a lot of kit here. Is there any reason for me to have yet another light? So the reason I said yes was because I wanted to test out what an LED panel like this would do in terms of lighting on the skin, right? And what do I mean by that? So previously, like last stream, we spoke about these little Godox heads, the MS60. Basically Coke cans size heads, and we were firing them into reflectors. So we're basically extending the distance at which light was traveling, and that is going to kind of compress the light fall off, right? So the further light has to travel, the less kind of difference we're going to see in exposure, right? And we'll kind of look at that in a minute. I've already got some diagram that I kind of want to show you. But a light panel is going to do the opposite to that, right? So rather than us using those reflectors to send light across the room and then bounce it off a reflector and then onto the subject, so basically sending light like 20 feet, really kind of extending how far that light is traveling, and as a result, kind of compressing that light fall off. What does the opposite look like? So what if we bring in a panel that is made up of, hundreds of tiny little LEDs, right, spread out over a very large area, and then bring that in super close to the subject? The opposite is going to happen with the light. So with the light being super close, now it means that the light is going to drop off very, very quickly, right? So we're going to get this light and then dark very quickly, as opposed to sending the light over a greater distance where it's going to be light and then almost exactly the same light. Okay, so that's kind of why I wanted to test this panel and bring it in close and see how beautiful we could kind of get that light drop off to be. So let me just kind of scooch into Photoshop here a minute and let's have a look. We got the did you guys, okay, that was weird. Okay, that was weird. Okay, so what I wanted to kind of show you here was what I was trying to explain last time, but the stream lagged out and that sort of stuff. So if it starts lagging out again, I guess tough. Let's see. Okay, so what are we talking about here? So we know the sun is like, what, 1.5 million miles away or something like that. A long way away from us. And, this is us here on Earth, right? And let me just get a nice bright color here so we can see. Let's get like a brush that we can kind of, yeah, that's fine. So the light is, the sun is, like I said, 1.5 million miles away. So a long way away. Okay. And then, this is kind of us down here, right? And let's take a light meter reading of this person. And then let's take a light meter reading of that person. So let's say here, right? Sorry, my tablet, because I'm mirroring the screens for the stream, my tablet is super sensitive because it's the tablet thinks the screen is like 5 feet wide. So look, if we were to take a light meter reading here, right, of this person, and then take another light meter reading here of this person, because the sun is so far away, even though these people are like, what, 5 feet apart or something like that, they're going to be exactly the same exposure, yeah? because the sun is so far away that when we take a measurement of somebody on Earth anywhere, like these two people could be 100 feet away, 200 feet away, right, miles apart, and they're going to be exactly the same exposure here as they are here, right? Because of how far away the sun is, there's almost zero drop off when it comes to 1.5 million miles, right? So, this is kind of what we were talking about in the previous stream with the reflectors. We were trying to bounce reflectors from, trying to bounce light off of reflectors, to kind of double the distance and therefore kind of increase that drop off to give us more of that natural light look, which was actually happening on stream. When I was editing the live stream and kind of putting the cut together, and I was looking at the lighting on my face, I was like, that does look like kind of window light coming in, because that light is traveling so much further. The light drop off is been kind of compressed, so it's almost the same, right, on my face as it is my shoulder and that sort of thing. So this is the sun. So now what happens if we kind of do this with like studio lighting, right? So we bring in like a studio light here, and kind of do the same here, right? So now we have our subject here, right? And we have our studio light here, and then what happens if we have like somebody else here, right? So if we were to take a light meter reading now on these two people between here and here, we know that there is going to be a difference because this light is so much closer, right? If we were to kind of break it down here, let's say, the distance between here is almost like a quarter of this, so we're almost going to be losing like at least half a stop of light here because of how close this light is. Yeah. So because the sun is so far away, there's almost no light drop off at all. When we start to bring that light in very close, now we're going to start to see this light drop off. So what happens then when we really kind of compress that, right? So what happens if we were to take this light and let's say we made it into a large soft panel, right, and bring it super close? So now when we take a light meter reading here and then maybe even a light meter reading at the back of the head, right, now we're going to start to see that light drops off very, very quickly. Okay, so we're going to start to see it being brighter on the face and then it kind of darker as we get towards the back of the head because of how close that light is. Now, typically with like a normal flash, right, or even like a light that we have here, you see here we have the kind of the bulb in the middle, and then this light is coming out like this. Yeah. So it's not a very flattering light. Yeah. But what if we were to kind of swap that out, like I said, for a panel, right? So we have our panel, and now all this light is coming out very, very evenly. So it's not spreading out like this because it's in super close. We're now going to have a very even spread of light, and that's what something like this panel can really add or offer to the light that we're bringing in there, and it ends up being a very, very, very beautiful light. Bring in super close, beautiful fall off, very even, clean all over. So very, very beautifying looking light, and we have that very controllable light because we bring it in super close and very, very quick drop off. Okay. So hopefully the stream didn't lag out too much. Was it okay when I was in Photoshop there? Just wanted to check. Let's have a look at some of the shots that I took using this panel as well. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. So a couple of the shots you've already seen me share on Facebook, right? You've already seen me share those ones. Let's have a look. Okay, so let's have a look at some of these. So this is just with the panel just off to the right there. Okay, so camera right, and it's in kind of pretty close, and it's kind of set to like a warmer, I don't know, like 3,500 Kelvin or something like that. So pretty warm, right? And same thing again, bringing it in super close, but it's still very, very, very manageable here. So again, just to You can see the panel in there. I think it does have the grid on it as well, but very, very close, and with very, very clean drop off here. And on the other side, which is without that light panel on, like in here is just going to be dark, right? So very, very manageable light, yeah, because it's in super close. Like I said, the drop off of light, very, very quick. Very, very quick. And this is what panels can offer that is kind of unique to other types of light. You can't do this with a cob light, right, with a single point light, because it's spreading out from a centralized point, whereas these panels is spreading out light over an even area. And beautiful light in close. Now, if you get further away, it drops off very, very quickly, but you can do a lot with it, okay, in terms of, you know, managing that power, okay. Beautiful quality of light though. Okay. Now here, I just wanted to take this shot. This is, I'm kind of shooting just underneath it here, and we can see that she had very heavy eyelashes. So even though that this panel is horizontal, right, above her here, right, and I'm shooting just underneath it, I could not get catch lights into her eye. So this catch light is coming from the blue softbox I have behind me here, which is casting these blue fill-in shadows. But I took this beauty light here, and we can see the shadow here, right? So it's coming from that panel above, very, very soft. You see that shadow, but see how that light is falling off down the face so quickly. It's crazy, yeah. And you know, look at the shadow here on the cheekbones, right? So you know, she's really emerging from that shadow there. And I'm filling in that shadow with the blue softbox behind, but the point still stands is that, you know, bringing in that light super close, you really, you know, you can really get somebody to kind of, you know, emerge from the shadow, as it were, and really create a lot of sculpting on the face by bringing in this panel very, very close. So I haven't shared these yet, but I also had some shots outside. Let's have a look. Here we go. Yeah, these ones here. Let's see, we got these ones here. So it's a softbox in the background. Would you you mean in those previous shots, Steve? So in here, these ones. So the lighting setup is I'm using the projection unit, the Godox projection unit. So I've just got a gobo in there that's kind of cutting the light in half. So this is shining white light onto a white background, and then this is the gobo is creating like a kind of a section here where it is just shadow, and that shadow is being filled in by the blue softbox behind. And then I have the panel here above the head, right? So it's basically a 3-light setup. So on the left of me, I have the projection unit firing that very strong white light onto the background. Gobo is carving it in half, so we have shadow down here. The blue softbox behind me is filling in that shadow with blue light, and then I'm using the panel just above the model's eye line here to actually illuminate her. So hopefully that answers your question about softbox in the background. So this is outside, right? So it's a daylight, and then I have this panel just off to camera right here, and again, right, in super close, and then the panel is set to what I think, whatever the lowest this goes in Kelvin. What is it, 2,500? Let me just check. So the lowest that goes is 2,700. So that's what, so that warm, yeah, that CTO, that warm color I'm firing onto her, yeah, and then daylight around her, which is that blue color, which is probably going to be closer to, like, this is getting towards the end of the day, so probably closer to like 6,000 Kelvin or something like that. And then I've set my camera to round about like 4,000, so in the middle, right? So what happens is that the daylight goes blue, and then the orange on her face goes orange, right? So you set the camera's white balance to the middle, which enables you to get blue and orange in the same shot. But you're able to use the kind of tones of this, so that, as we can see down here, as that kind of drops off and basically the two color temperatures mix, So we got the blues and the oranges, but see, when they mix, you kind of almost get this neutralized skin tone down. You know, you can't really get it, probably happening around here, but yeah. So as that kind of orange drops off, it's mixing in with the blue. So you can see the daylight is acting as the fill light on the leg here, so it's still blue down there. But that's how you're able to get these kind of colors. Yeah. Bringing it in super close, and you can see how much the panel is having effect, because wherever we see the orange on the jacket here, that's a direct reflection of the panel in the jacket, and we can see the catch lights in the eyes there is only coming from that panel, right? So it's outside. It's, you know, I mean, it's not noon or anything, but it's certainly not dark. This was shot a few weeks ago. It was a sunny day, so the power of this is certainly viable for sure. Yeah, and you can see the catch lights in the eyes there. This is using that Petzval lens, okay? So there's no funny business going on here. This is that Petzval lens, and we can see that here. Just bring it down so you can actually see it in the stream there. So you can see this blurring effect here is all coming from that Petzval lens. So good, so good. It's a pain in the ass to use. So Daniel was talking about the pain in the ass of Hasselblad. That is nothing compared to this nightmare lens. This is rack and pinion focusing, Daniel. You're focusing using this dial here, and then the f stops go in there, right? So that's just the solid one at the moment. But you put f. I think I was using f 1.2 or something in there. You put it in there. So this is a real pain in the ass to use, but it's a lot of work. But it is such a beautiful look, man. Absolutely gorgeous drop off here. Beautiful kind of radial effect. And again, here we can see this. Let's have a look. So same thing again here with the Petzval lens, but look at it down here. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So the only downside is that it's really only kind of semi-sharp-ish in the middle, right? So like here, you know, even the eyebrow here is starting to blur as well. So there's a very small area in the middle which is kind of in focus-ish, but the rest of it is creating this very dramatic effect. Yeah. Same here, Petzval again. Like, I mean, if you can give this lens something to work with, and I never really get a chance to use it in the studio because it just doesn't have any effect on a blank background. It just doesn't see anything. But you know, if you're out on location or something like this, and you can justify putting the model's face in the middle, that's the other thing as well. I never normally have the model's face in the middle, but you know, trying to do something with the posing and that sort of thing, you can kind of get away with it here. But it is a beautiful effect. Yeah. But you know, look at the lighting on the skin here from just that panel. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Yeah. Lovely, like a Helios a bit. Exactly, right, exactly. But this is like Helios cranked up to 20. Yeah. Helios is kind of you know, it's definitely got a little bit of emotion there in the edges, whereas Petzval is just banging you over the head with it. It's not going to be for everybody, but you know, if you've got something, you know, like an image like this or a shoot where you can kind of warrant it, I think it works really well. Yeah. I know, Vlad. I was thinking about that. Yeah, you mentioned it last stream, and I was thinking about that. Trying to get into my head of shooting landscape, shooting wide, and then cropping in afterwards. In post. Yeah, please. Yeah, 2.4:1 crop on some of these horizontal shots. I'll send you the black bar Lightroom preset. Yeah, I would be interested. I would be interested to see, because I think, because you mentioned it last stream, and it did make me think about it. Because it would only kind of be noticeable on the left and right, not as much on top and bottom. So it could be kind of cool. Yeah, could be kind of cool. Yeah. I know you're going to like this, but I know you're going to hate this, but it looks so cinematic. I know, right? I know. Yeah. So we're watching a show at the moment on Prime, Amazon Prime TV, and it's called Paris Has Fallen, right? And I'm seeing more and more of this, but that whole show is shot with a very distorted lens around the outside, and it's not banging you over the head with it, but it's very, very distorted towards the edges, really, for like a normal show, right? I was just like, I was starting to see more and more of it, and I got invited down to like the opening event of CVP the other day, like the Creativity Hub thing, and there was a guy there who his previous life was working with lenses and filters and that sort of thing, and he made some of the lens filters for the Batman movie, you know, like the recent one, the Robert Pattinson one. Talking to him about it, and so I was going like, so they used the Helios on that Batman movie, right? And talking about the car scene and all that sort of stuff, because that's really grungy and like crazy. Like they had water on the lens and like just massive bokeh droplets in the foreground. Interesting guy. You know, he said I've still got some of those filters. I was able to take them home. Yeah, after production on the Batman had wrapped. I was like, that's wild, man. Yeah, so he was working with the director on that, trying to get this look, and he was saying like it's cool, but they just want to be able to recreate it time and time again. So it's not this kind of airy fairy, just ethereal look. It is like, no, that's cool, but I need to be able to kind of recreate this time and 60 takes later. Because I worked with a model who was an extra on the Batman, and she said it was a nightmare. She said it was like, because there's tons of rain in it and that sort of stuff, and she was saying that people were going home sick all the time because we're talking like 60 takes to move a coffee cup from here to there, that sort of thing. So for them, they needed to be, you know, this continuity the whole time, and especially on a film like that, where like she said, it was a nightmare. It sounds glamorous, but like you're there at 3 a.m. until like midnight, you know, the following day, sort of thing, and you're just under rain cover the entire it was rough, yeah. But you know, everybody likes to watch the movie, but they don't really like to know how it was created, yeah. I assume the panel is just out of shot, so around 20 to 30 is just out of shot. Yes, it is literally just out of shot. I think in the review, I'm going to try and include some of the BTS that actually shows it. It is like literally just out of shot. Yeah. So typically, Steve, what I'm looking for is kind of arms reach away, right? That's kind of what I'm looking for in terms of distance, right? I don't get the model to put outstretched their arms, but just as a guide, I'm like, you know, that's kind of where I'm looking. Yeah. Well, we're way off topic. I think we're talking about the Nanlite PavoSlim there. So yeah, so these here, bringing it in real close. Look, I think that we are in this kind of era now where we used to shoot with strobes that were the kind of jack of all trades, right? And I mentioned this in my previous article talking about this, where the single point lights like the S-Fit Bowens mount lights that I used for like 20 years are cool, but what they did was they really just created this very jack of all trades look. You put a softbox, you put a hard light, projection unit, Fresnel, grids, barn doors, whatever you want, right? And it produced okay looking light, but it was never really, you know, beautiful looking light from any of them, you know. And we kind of came from the Fresnel era of the 50s and 60s of the hot lights and that sort of stuff. Beautiful light, but a pain in the ass to use. Like you burn yourself, consumes a ton of power, just melts the models. Like there's tons of downsides to using those beautiful Fresnel heads, but strobes and their single point flashes gave us a ton of flexibility and affordable. And I think now, moving forward from that into the era of LEDs, we're starting to see specific, you know, masters of lighting fixtures like tubes, right? Tubes create a beautiful looking light, but they're only good at that one look, right? Tubes only produce one look. You can't modify that. Oh, you can put a grid on it, okay, but you can't turn it into a hard light or anything like that. And you know, panels like this one here is a good example of that. I think that it creates a beautiful looking light. It just absolutely just bathes the skin in this beautiful light. But obviously you can't you can't modify it really. Okay, you can put a grid on it. I get it. But you can't turn it into a hard light or anything like that. So I think for me, having at least one half decent sized panel like this is going to be great as a key light, right? Just bring that in as a key light just in front there, and then do what you want with something else. But you're able to bring this in very, very close because the light is spread out over hundreds of little LEDs as opposed to one single point. This enables you to get very, very beautiful light, very, very fast drop off of light, and bring it in very, very close, and you're just good to go. It's just easy. Yeah, easy. So that's why I was kind of interested in testing this out, is to see what this could offer in terms of a unique looking light. And it does do that. Yeah. So yeah, pretty impressed. Like I said, the review, I got a busy week. I got to shoot tomorrow. There's a tight deadline on that. So maybe try and get the review done this week. We'll see. But yeah, the review will be out on this, where we can kind of dig a little bit deeper there. If anybody's got any questions about it though, I will try and cover that in the review as well. I know last time a couple of you guys had some really interesting points on the Godox MS60s, and they were useful for the article. So if there's anything about this panel that you'd be kind of curious about finding out, obviously it's got tons of the presets in there with the lighting, the color rainbow effects and the police car lighting effects and all that sort of stuff. It's got all of that in there as standard, right? The Kelvin range, I think, like I said, is 2.7, and it goes up to what was happening there was the dial has notches on it, and there's three windows. There's three numbers that I'm trying to land on the middle one, but the notches was kind of in between. It was kind of weird. So it goes up to 7,500 Kelvin. So not the hugest range, 2,700 up to 7,500, but it's going to be enough for most people, right? For the most part, it's going to be enough. Yeah, like I said, this was, for these shots here, the light is set to 2,700 Kelvin, and which is not utilizing all of its power either, and we were still shooting in daylight. You can see the daylight behind her there. Yeah, I'll have all the camera settings and stuff, unless they might be here. Here you go. What we got? So there we go. Yeah, shooting 85mm, 1.4, 500th of a second. Yeah, ISO 30, ISO 25. Interesting. Okay. So the fast shutter speed there is to try and get rid of some of the daylight, right? Because we're shooting wide open, 1.4 in broad daylight, and so the shutter speed is to try and combat some of that daylight, and then the ISO is doing the same thing. No worries, Daniel. Take it easy, mate. Yeah. So the camera is trying to crush the daylight, and then I'm trying to kind of overpower that with the panel on top of that. And Steve says we're using the grid. Yes, I was using the grid. I don't think I've taken it off, actually. Yeah. I think the grid doesn't change the quality of light. I think a lot of people get confused with that. I'm not saying that you're saying that, Steve, but I know in the past people have said, the grid is going to make it harder or softer. It doesn't do it. It doesn't change any of that. All a grid does is make sure that it's going where you want it, right? If I take the grid off, it's just going to go all around the room. Yeah. But with that grid on, it kind of keeps it more focused. So the grid is kind of useful if, like, in the outside environment there, maybe it would give me a touch more power. I know it's not giving me more power, but it's allowing more of that light to be channeled onto the model rather than lost out. So the grid is kind of useful for keeping as much of the light on the subject as possible. Yeah, especially when you bring it in close like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that was all I wanted to cover with the PavoSlim there. Yeah, they've given me a kind of list of things that I need to cover as well, which I will touch on those in the review. But yeah, I think for the most part, it's kind of what I wanted to kind of just show you the size and what it's doing. And it's all very well to talk about a size or something like that, but until you actually see it, and especially how lightweight it is and easy it is to use and all that sort of stuff. Basic stuff, but still valuable.